Yeah, what's good, Chief? Same old stuff, different day. Alright. What's up, youngin? I'm going live, actually. I'm going to be doing a little business right now, educating folk, man. Alright. Give it a few minutes to get started. Yo, 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 yo. It's your boy, the insurance junkie, your fiduciary fella, the all-star advisor Alonzo Hall, your social media insurance broker, back again today to weapon tap on your head with another ADH Wealth Solution article. Let me make sure that this is the one that was shared out, because let me just create post out, because I don't know how this thing works, but it shared the wrong way. It didn't share the way I wanted it to. I am sorry, y'all. Reconnecting. So, again, salute, folks. It's your boy, the insurance junkie, your fiduciary fella, the all-star advisor Alonzo Hall, your social media insurance bro. Back again today to weapon up on your head with yet another ADH Wealth Solution. So, today, we're going to be reading from Financial Advisor Magazine. Who says nothing in life is guaranteed? Guaranteed lifetime income from an annuity, right? So one of the big topics in the financial services field, let me see if I can, what did I do with my headphones? One of the biggest things in the financial services world is hey, Queena, how's it going? One of the biggest things in the financial services world is an argument back and forth between financial advisors and what they consider to not be financial advisors. And so what you, the general public, are told as a financial advisor is anyone who carries an investment license. But then they don't even break it down to the nitty-gritty what an investment license is. Most people who are talking about an investment license don't actually have their investment license. Just so you know, the investment license that they're talking about is generally the Series 6 and 63, which are registered by FINRA, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. However, there are 17 FINRA licenses. So that means that for those two, Monty Ramos, what's going on? For those two licenses, there's 15 other licenses that are investment licenses. Technically, there's 18 licenses because you also have something called the SIE, the Security Industry Essentials. Okay, so now what has happened is folks who have what's called their Series 7, generally a 7 and 63 or 7 and 66, are what is actually called a stockbroker. Now, they had gotten a terrible name in the world of finance and financial services because they're really just there to railroad you, sell you a stock. Doesn't matter how your portfolio performs as a money manager. If I charge you 1% AUM fee, meaning assets under management, I don't care if you earn $1 bazillion. Well, I'd prefer you to earn $1 bazillion because then I'd get more percentage. Or if you lose $1 bazillion, if your net worth is $500,000 and you purchase, I don't know, a mutual fund from me, guess what? Every fucking year, you're going to pay 1% of your net worth. So every year you pay me $5,000 and I haven't managed this ETF or this mutual fund for you, but it sounds great to say, no, I'm investing in the stock market. Sounds nice. We haven't checked your risk tolerance, your time horizon, or any of that. I just told you, hey, I got my Series 7. Trust me, bro. Well, we've also not told you about the regulators. So I told you about one regulator so far. Oh yeah, before I continue, make sure you hit that like, drop a comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're made aware every time I release new content. And as always, share, share, share. Lastly, to contribute to channel growth or to schedule an appointment with a licensed financial professional, the links are in the description of this video. Hey, Kaden, what's going on? So, again, young advisors to watch in 2025. So let's talk about some of those regulatory authorities, right? The main regulatory authority that most Series 6 holders will talk to you about is the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. That is a federal regulatory authority. They may also speak to you about FINRA, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. Now, the funny thing about FINRA is you'll get all these dunderheads who will come online and tell you, I'm day trading. You don't need to have a bunch of money to hop into day trading. Well, let me ask you something. If I give you $1 and I give you 10% of that $1 every 3 months, what have you earned off of that $1? You've earned 10 cents. It's not going to move the needle either way. It's not going to be life-changing money. Now, if you give me, $100,000 and you get 10% of that, and then every 3 months you get 10% or 10,000, that can become life-changing because that 10,000 can actually pay for things, right? So, the major issue is FINRA, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, tells you that you cannot day trade Forex or options unless you have what's called a margin account, meaning you have an account with $25,000 or more in it. If you don't have $25,000 or more in a margin account, you can still execute a trade, but you have to do it in what's called a cash account. Well, a cash account is not considered day trading, generally because you have to pay for the security in full, which is why all of the people who blow smoke up your ass when they're telling you to day trade will tell you, oh yes, trade this for $49.99. Let me explain something to you. Investment is not done in small increments. It's done in fell swoops. That's why you hear institutional investors invest hundreds of thousands of dollars at one time. They invest your annual salary. They don't invest $50 here, $100 there. Dollar cost averaging doesn't do anything. Dollar cost averaging came from Wall Street and those stockbrokers doing what's called the short strategy, which is when a stock declines, they buy more of it because it's going to eventually increase. And when it increases, they're going to sell because, again, the average American doesn't understand behavioral finance. So that's FINRA, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. Then you've got the SIPC, the Securities Industry Protection Corporation. So that is there, again, for those who are non-accredited investors or accredited investors, right? Generally not institutional investors, but retail investors, which is most Americans. Generally, you're not investing in anything, but thank you, Marcy. You have a great day, too. Generally, your retail investor is investing in their 401k, maybe an ETF, maybe a mutual fund. But you're not going into IPs, which is IPOs, initial public offerings, or anything like that. Why? Because you don't have the money, right? You don't have you don't pass the accredited investor test. So what is the accredited investor test? Well, number one means that you have made $250,000 or more for the past 3 years and expected to make that this year. If you're a single individual, $300,000 if you're married. How many Americans have a household income of $300,000? I'll wait. Not many. Number two, your other way to be an accredited investor is have a net worth of $1 million excluding residential real estate. So if you own your house and your house is worth $1 million, guess what? Even though that's added to your net worth, you don't pass the accredited investor test, meaning that you can't invest in those things that, Dave Ramsey and Sue Zorman and, Grant Cardone are talking about. Because they're investing in the hundreds of thousands of dollars or the millions of dollars, not the tens of dollars or the hundreds of dollars or even the single thousands of dollars. Again, remember, as a financial advisor charging you a 1% fee, why in the fuck would I waste my time with somebody who has $17,000? 1% of that is what? $1,700? Yeah, I'm going to work to get paid $1,700 for the entire year. Yeah, no. That's why most asset managers require you to have $500,000 of investable assets, and they have no interest in helping you get there. Because $500,000 of investable assets, 1% of that is, 1% of 17,000, $170. 1% of 500,000 is $5,000 for the year. Who's going to do a job and only get paid $5,000 for the entire year? Yeah, if I got to sit with you one time, cool, but not for the entire year. What's going on, youngin? Chilling. Oh, y'all came at the perfect time, man. Blow me down, man. Yeah. So when you're looking at the aspect of those types of numbers, it makes no sense. It sounds nice, but it also sounds nice to say if I buy a pair of Air Jordans, I'm going to go directly to the NBA. That's absolutely not true. Now, is it true that people who play in the NBA wear Air Jordans? Yes, but they're not in the NBA because they wear Air Jordans. Okay, so there's a lot of different things in there. So again, that is the SIPC. Now we have the NASAA, which is another regulatory authority over, again, your securities licensure. Generally, it's going to be SIPC, FINRA, SEC, and NASAA when you have an actual investment license like the Series 7. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get ready to read a couple of articles from the Financial Advisor magazine. Okay? The first article that we're going to read, and that's why I started speaking about the NASAA, is because this whole battle between financial advisors of all kind, or financial professionals. So again, you'll have the stockbroker that feels that, or the securities licensed individual who feels that the insurance only licensed individual should not get the right to call themselves a financial advisor, though they actually sit down and go through substantially more than your stockbroker, right? Your stockbroker is going to say, hey, do you have that 500,000 AUM? No, get the fuck out my face until you do. Right? That insurance agent is going to sit down and actually talk to you about this, that, and the third. And yes, I'm unorthodox. I dropped the F-bomb, but if the F-bomb is more offensive to you than the conditions we leave our family in, we got problems. Now, let's look at this. Yeah, what's good, country girl? So, we're going to look here at this article, which asks, should brokers be able to call themselves financial advisors? The NASAA says no. Now, why would the NASAA, a regulatory authority in charge of quote-unquote financial advisors, which really is just stockbrokers, say no? Let's read the article together and find out. So, should brokers be able to call themselves advisors? The NASAA says no. The organization that unites state securities regulators has made changes to its model rule of conduct for advisors and brokers, hoping to bring these more in line with the federal best interest standards set by the Securities and Exchange Commission. At the same time, the state-level group has taken aim at the brokerage industry's sweeping use of the term advisor to describe broker job functions. The NASAA, the North American Securities Administrators Association, said that it amended its model rule to bring it in line with the federal agency's regulation best interest. So a lot of insurance agents have been concerned with regulation BI. If you've been operating out of the state of New York, we've had regulation 187 since 2018. So we've always acted in the capacity of a financial advisor, which is the best way if you're going to sell a product to a client to act as, because you're generally going to get a substantially larger commission because you're going to uncover stuff, as opposed to somebody coming to you saying, hey, how much is a $100,000 policy, because they never held $100,000 in their hands at once. So, regulation best interest, a mandate for broker-dealers to act in their clients' best interest without conflicts when making recommendations. So again, also, a lot of securities licensed people who call themselves financial advisors are not insurance licensed. So if that's the case, if an insurance licensed individual can't call themselves a financial advisor because they don't have a securities license, then a securities licensed individual can't call themselves a financial advisor because they don't have an insurance license. So that means that they can only advise you on things that they charge a fee on, like stocks, bonds. Well, stocks if they're a Series 7 holder. If they're a Series 6 and 63 holder, they can't talk about stocks and bonds. They can talk about mutual funds, 401ks, ETFs, Section 529, maybe a 401k, maybe a 403b, maybe a TSP. But they can't talk about that nitty-gritty stocks, bonds, derivatives, or anything like that. And those products aren't even with a Series 7. So again, especially when you're talking about communities of folks who look like me, 5.7% of the industry that's licensed is black. So my community, we get the brunt of it, right? Because folks who look like me tend to not want to listen to me when I'm telling this until I come out with some flashy chains or BS. They'll listen to the rappers and the gangbangers, but, let me, someone who speaks proper English, Yeah, I'm trying to be white. You know, I'm a sellout. Yeah, I'm trying to educate y'all on generational wealth. So, NASAA's rules on dishonest or unethical business practices also prohibits potentially misleading uses of the title advisor or advisor by broker-dealer agents. So you also should learn the difference between an advisor, ER, and an advisor, OR. Again, folks in my community might get a little touchy about a word ending in the in the letters ER. But if you look at a financial advisor, OR, that's the person who can actually sell you insurance and securities. When you look at the financial advisor, ER, that's the person who actually gives you financial advice or charges you a fee as a financial advisor, and they're generally going to have a Series 65 license. Okay? So, okay. NASAA rules, blah, 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 blah. NASAA wants to stop firms and professionals from using the titles unless they are registered as RIAs, or registered investment advisory firms, or investment advisor representatives, or IARs. So you have an RIA, which is a registered investment advisory, and an IAR, which is an investment advisory representative. So what's the difference? Because it sounds like word salad. So if I continue to do what I'm doing, American Trademan, what's going on? Just Ask Shar, what's going on? So if I, in the next year, decide to open my own RIA, registered investment advisory, and it's Alonzo Hall's advisory, I am an RIA. If I hire someone who holds their securities license to represent my financial advisor, my RIA, they are an IAR, or an investment advisory representative, even though I'm a registered investment advisory. Again, a lot of word salad, can be convoluted and confusing. So, unless they're registered as RIAs or IARs, says Amy Copelton, who chaired the project and who is currently the Deputy Bureau Chief of the New Jersey Bureau of Securities. Thank you, Just Ask Shar. While the NASAA has no enforcement powers, it sets standards that regulators generally adopt in their oversight of the securities industry. The amendments were at first significantly tougher, but outcry from the brokerage industry persuaded the NASAA's project group to eliminate some requirements that exceeded those of Regulation BI. Copelton says that the association removed more prohibitive material to help broker-dealers more easily comply. The version that we have now pretty closely tracks the SEC's Regulation BI, but not exactly. So Regulation BI, again, is not only for securities, but it's also for insurance, specifically things like annuities. So you'll hear this thing called a 401k, which sounds great, but it's a tax-deferred vehicle, and it's really more for the benefit of the federal government. So if anyone here is in their 40s, right, in the last 20 years, did you see the income tax rate go up or go down? Likely you saw it go up. In the last 20 to 40 years, did you see the national deficit go up or go down? Go up. So if our national deficit keeps going up, how on God's green earth do you think we're going to pay for it? Oh, taxation. So that means that the tax rate is going to keep going up. Donald Trump luckily lowered the tax rate for a short bit, lowered the things like capital gains taxes, and then your buddy Sleepy Joe Biden went and boosted capital gains, and then was going to try and tax you on unrealized capital gains. Meaning, when you feel really good because your Bitcoin shows $1 bazillion, but nobody actually gave you $1 bazillion for the Bitcoin, you would have to pay taxes on the $1 bazillion that you never received from Bitcoin. Well, how are you going to pay taxes on $1 bazillion you've never earned? Unrealized capital gains. It works the same with losses. If you see that balance sheet and you're panicking because your stock is going down, prime example, the AMC GameStop thing. Oh, the sky is falling, the stocks are going down. What's good, fam? If you don't, I ain't seen you in a minute, man. Where you been? All right, no doubt. So I forgot what I was saying. I just ran into an old neighbor of mine, but again, when the sky is falling because the stock is falling, if you don't sell, you don't realize a loss. So the only way you lose is, oh my God, behavioral finance. This stock is crashing. I'm gonna sell it and get out now before more bleeding. No, you just weather the storm. But you only weather the storm if you have what's called a time horizon, which again, none of these fake ass gurus tell you anything about your time horizon or your risk tolerance. Your risk tolerance is, hey, Lonzo, I gave you $25,000 to invest. Tomorrow, that $25,000 that you gave me to invest turns into zero. Oh, by the way, you still owe me a commission. Are you going to want to choke me and or jump out of a window? Or are you going to say, oh, here's your commission, Alonzo. By the way, hey, Jamie, how's it going? Here's another $25,000 for you to invest. If you're not going to say, oh, here's your commission, let's let that $25,000 go to the wayside, and here's another 25 grand to invest, you have no business investing because you don't have the risk tolerance. If it's going to take you 6 months to get that 25 grand, cool, you have the risk tolerance. But if it took you years and years of saving and scrimping and putting bottles up and skipping your Starbucks, you ain't got no business investing. Fucking go to the corner store and buy a scratch off. You'll be better off. So, Copelton says the association. I already read that. I'm sorry. The version that we have now pretty closely tracks the SEC's Regulation BI, but not exactly. She says, our concern was that a lot of states don't have the toolbox for enforcing Regulation BI, so they need this model. The regulation pertaining to the use of the advisor OR title is aimed at ensuring proper licensing. She says, if a rep is using an advisor title without being licensed and acting as a fiduciary, it would be very confusing for investors. Newt Rostand, founder of the Institute for the Fiduciary Standard, calls the titling amendments a good step in aligning advice to legal responsibility. It makes sense that using the title advisor ER or advisor OR is tied to the actual licensing requirements. While Regulation BI also has an explicit prohibition on brokers and reps who use the title without RIA or appropriate registration, the SEC has not enforced the prohibition. The financial services industry has been closely monitoring the development of NASAA's model to prevent what it calls a fragmented state-by-state regulatory approach that could create compliance problems for independent BDs and RIAs. One industry group, the Financial Services Institute, has strongly advocated for incorporating Regulation BI language into state rules to maintain consistency, arguing that uniform regulations benefit both investors and the industry. Excuse me. We continue to work with individual states to ensure alignment with national standards, says Dale Brown, the Institute's president and FSI's annual conference. What independent broker-dealers and advisor reps don't want is a patchwork of rules that forces firms and practitioners to navigate a regulatory maze, he says. Since the NASAA lacks direct control over individual state models, advocates for the financial services industry and investors alike will be closely watching how each state chooses to incorporate or resist this tougher standard. Param Nasseri, the president of the regulatory compliance software firm InvestorCom, thinks state-level regulation will be influenced by federal deregulatory trends. A uniform nationwide regulatory framework would benefit both the industry and investors, Nasiri says. Otherwise, firms must navigate inconsistent requirements such as varying documentation rules, which can create regulatory arbitrage and cause market confusion. So that's the one article on if brokers should be able to call themselves advisors. And according to, again, the NASAA, they don't think so. So what do I want to look at? The First Trust launches a Bitcoin ETF. No. Parents overspend on kids from guilt. No. There was one more article I wanted to talk about. Because, again, everybody is getting this tremendous hard-on for Bitcoin. And if you look at the total market capitalization of Bitcoin and how much one Bitcoin actually costs, and the actual distribution of ownership of everybody on earth who owns Bitcoin, it equates to every person who owns Bitcoin actually has $181 worth of value. Big fucking whoop. Let me just walk out the street and hand everybody on earth $181. I can't even pay my cell phone bill with $181. I know you can't either. But it sounds nice to say, Bitcoin's going to the moon. Ooh. Just like the guy who is telling you to, I'll teach you how to make $10,000 a month online trading. Just pay me $9,997.97 a month. And I guarantee you, in 3 months of paying me $9,999.97, you too will learn how to make $10,000 a month. Well, you just saw the grift. And there's a lot of people who fall for that idiocy. Oh, this guy's got great information. Let me pay him $9,999.97 a month to learn how to get $10,000 a month. Well, he just told you. He's going to get a dunderhead to pay him $9,997. He can find 3 cents on the ground. That's $10,000 a month. Bada bing. But, again, $181 is what Bitcoin is worth to every person who owns Bitcoin. When you take the fact that a value of a Bitcoin is what, 69K? And it has no intrinsic value, right? It's literally FOMO is what Bitcoin is. Why do you think every time there's a rally, you get all these unsophisticated investors, you get fucking dudes who are out here with sagging jeans, hats to the back, gang signs tattooed on their face, talking about, come get some Bitcoin. And then you idiots turn around and buy it. Oh, well, when it goes from 1,017ths of a penny to 118,017ths of a penny, we're going to be rich. No, he's going to be rich because your dumbass bought it from him. So, let's continue. Gold ETFs beat Bitcoin ETFs by a lot in Q1. Gold ETFs beat Bitcoin ETFs by a lot in Q1. This is stuff I've been saying to you guys for the entire 5 years my channel has been out. You guys thought I bullshitted you, so I got a fucking actual magazine with people who don't sell this shit who are telling you the same thing. The people, if I sold fucking crack, I would tell you that crack is the best thing ever, right? It's kind of what makes sense, right? What's going on, OG? That would make sense, right? If I sold chicken wings, then I'd tell you the best food you should ever eat is chicken wings. But if I have a grocery store, I'd tell you the best food to eat is the one that you buy and prepare to cook at your house. So, during hyper-volatile markets, investors usually reassess what they own. They also revisit which investments are best suited for navigating bumpy times. Gold is always an obvious choice, and during the current turmoil, it hasn't disappointed. In fact, old school gold ETFs are beating even Bitcoin funds by a huge margin. Market benchmarks like the Spider S&P 500 ETF, SPDR, saw big dips from January 1 to April 15 in 2025. The Spider fell 7.9% during that time, while the iShares Bitcoin Trust ETF slid even deeper, 10%. So, here's another thing, because people don't understand in how investing works. If you take a 10%, let's say you invest $100,000, and you take a 20% loss. That brings your balance from $100,000 to $80,000. And then let's say you get a 20% gain. Well, you're at $96,000. You're not broken even because 20% of 80 is less than 20% of 100. So you're not even earning back to zero. You would have to get at least a 25% return in order to get back to zero. Back to zero, right? So what happens in investing is every 10 years, you're going to have at least 2 down years. But those 2 down years could be astronomical, like 2008, where people talk a 50% loss, and you need to get 125% pretty much to get a little bit back over even. This shit sounds nice. Again, it sounds nice to say, I'm going to go to the corner store and buy a pair of Air Jordans and be in the NBA tomorrow. We all know that's bullshit, and you wouldn't come in and see me if I told you that. But we also know that there are people who play in the NBA who wear Air Jordans. Do you think they got to the NBA because they put on a pair of Jordans? No. They practiced the craft. They got good at it. And then, while they're in the NBA, they happen to get a contract from Jordan to be part of the Jordan brand. Right? So I'm not going to go through this whole article because I'm about to go get me some dinner. My wife made some tacos. And I'm about to go smoke me a cigarette. And then I'm going to go have my tacos. So, I'm going to take y'all to the car with me while I'm at it before I roll my cigarette. But again, there's so many misconceptions that you guys get put into that, shit gets shameful. Let me put this in my back pocket. And there we go. So you have to realize that, a lot of these different things are what bring you to prominence or lack thereof. So, keep that in mind. It was good. And, oh, that's who that is. Y'all all hanging out over here. Where'd my boy go? Where Tone go? What? What's good, G? Where'd Tone go? What's good? Walk that way. So, these are things that you want to be cognizant of because it's not going to really enhance your life the way that a lot of these people selling you their course for how to make $10,000 a month for $99.95 are able to do, right? So again, these are things that you have to what's going on, brother? You have to learn and study, right? Again, if I say come to my course for $9,997.97 a month, so you can learn how to make $10,000, you'd be like, that's bullshit. But when somebody tells you to pay for their course on how to day trade, you don't think it's bullshit because they're saying, oh, I'm up $1,700. The idea is to make a consistent return, meaning that you have an annual income. I grow tired of people saying, I made $10,000 once off Bitcoin. Okay, go to your job, go work at McDonald's and make $10,000 one time off of working at McDonald's and never again make $10,000. How you doing? Off of working at McDonald's, but continue to work at McDonald's. Or when you go and you put in your hours, it's extremely inconsistent. So as opposed to having a 26-hour work week or a 40-hour work week where you get paid for, I got you, where you get paid for the hours that you put in. No problem, brother. You go, you work, and they say, well, we know that you worked 38 hours this week, Bob, but we're only going to pay you for 17 hours. Well, you wouldn't work at that place anymore. So it's the same thing when you're investing. You need to have something that's consistent. And then people will talk about living off of the dividends. So a lot of things aren't paying extremely huge dividends like 10%. The largest dividend that I've seen is about 4%. So that means for you to actually earn any money off of your dividend, if you have $1,000, right? 4% of 1,000 is what? $400? Oh, I'm sorry. That would be 40% of 1,000. Whoa, you all right? That would be 40% of 1,000, right? So 4% means that you're getting $40 off of that that $1,000, right? And $40 is not going to be anything that's going to move the needle for you off of that $1,000. Let's say they pay the dividend quarterly, so every 3 months you make $40 off of $1,000. Is that life altering? No. You might be able to go out for some nice, barbecue with your family, but it's not anything generational wealth. Now, if you have $100,000 and you get a 4% dividend, it makes sense. So all these people are talking about dividend investors. I had this one young lady who got handed to me by a buddy of mine who deals with high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals, and she was like, "Oh well, I want a dividend paying life insurance," and I was like, "Okay, cool, but you don't even know how it works. So I understand you've done your research and your study. Guess what? A lot of us do research and study on health too, right? But we still go to the doctor because we don't know what the doctor knows and the ins and outs and the things that your study is not going to teach. Because your Google search pales in comparison to the actual 10,000 hours that doctor put in. I don't care if you put in 10,000 hours of Google searching, it's not going to be the specific information that you're going to need that doctor has. Same thing with your financial advisor. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, the insurance junkie, your fiduciary fella, the all-star advisor Alonzo Hall, your social media insurance bro. And I just wept and tapped on your head with another ADH Wealth Solution article. Make sure you guys hit that like, drop a comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're made aware every time I release new content. And as always, share, share, share. And before I end this out, actually, I'm going to speak some real truth, especially a bunch of bliggity blacks. Listen, when we do this stuff, right? If especially because I've noticed when I share stuff and it's like Diddy's sucking peen in prison, and I share it to 100 people, folks show up. When it's something like this and we all claim to want generational wealth, we don't show up. Or I get a bunch of text messages and responses like, "Oh, I'm busy at the moment. I'm at work." I don't give a fuck. I'm sharing it out. If you watch, you watch. If you don't, you don't. You wouldn't tell me I'm busy at the moment. I'm not going to watch this thing about P. Diddy. So don't tell me that you're not going to watch something that's likely going to be beneficial to you. With that being said, folks, wipe ass. Work in progress every day and see success. Salute.